No, it's snowed again overnight up in the mountains, so very nice look up there. The president still remains up there. Janjako today, he's at the mixed team snowboard cross, the cross-country 4x5 relay, women's classic and free, and then this evening, ski jumping men's individual large hill. So he remains there. I think he's coming back tomorrow, back down to Beijing. Couple of quick broadcasting figures. I know you wait for these every day. In China, up to Thursday, the 10th of February, over 500 million people have seen CCTV's coverage of the Beijing 22 Olympic Winter Games. That's 515 million people so far. In the US, NBC reports more than 100 million Americans have watched some part of the Olympic Winter Games Beijing on the networks of NBC Universal. And then one for specialists here in the Netherlands, coverage of the women's 5,000 speed skating achieved an average audience 10% greater than the biggest audience for the 2021 World Speed Skating Championships hosted in the Netherlands. And my usual reminder that on Wednesday we'll have Timo back here and he can give you a bit more detail, but some interesting figures there. So, thank you very much. As ever, I am joined by my counterpart, Mr. Zhao, who also has a guest. He has some announcements as well. So over to you, Director Zhao.
好，谢谢马克。
Okay, thank you, Mark.
各位媒体朋友们，
Dear
大家上
friends
午好。
from the media, good
今天
morning.
出席新闻发布会的
Today,
呢，是
with us at
我们
the
北京
daily
冬奥会
briefing,
奥
we
运
have
恢复
the
的
Director General of the Village Planning and Operation Department of Beijing 2022, Mr. Shen Xianfan, as well as Mr. Huang Chun, the Deputy Director General of the Office of Pandemic Prevention and Control. And the topic today is athletes caring and service, which is one of the key priorities of Beijing 2022, because athletes is always the group of people that we should respect and serve well. Here, I'd like to share with you the experience of some athletes who participated in both summer and winter Olympic Games. Over 90 years ago, the U.S. athlete Edward Egan created a legend by winning the gold medal both in boxing in 1920 Antwerp Summer Olympic Games and also in four-man bobsleigh at Lake Placide 1932. Now, on the field of play in Beijing, Nathan Crompton of American Samoa competed in skeleton yesterday after running the 100 meters at the Tokyo Games, only in over 7 months. And another athlete from Brazil, Jacqueline Moura, who competed in mountain biking during the 2008 Beijing Summer Games, has just finished her cross-country skiing women's sprint at the Beijing Winter Games just 4 days ago. We admire their enthusiasm and courage to compete in both summer and winter games, and we also commend all athletes for their spirit of always challenging and going beyond themselves. We hope that with our service, every athlete can enjoy the competition with all their passion. Now, the information on the games. First, the competitions. Yesterday, 15 events were held in 11 competition venues with 7 gold, and today 12 events will be held in 10 competition venues with 6 gold medals. And about the pandemic prevention and control. Between midnight to 23:59 on the 11th of February, we had 81 inbound participants, including 59 athletes and team officials and 22 other stakeholders. And after the confirmatory tests at the customs, 0 was tested positive. During the same period, The total number of PCR tests inside the closed loop was 71,184, including 6,500 for athletes and team officials and 64,684 for other stakeholders. 8 were tested positive after confirmatory tests, including 4 athletes and team officials and 4 other stakeholders. As always, all the participants, inbound participants and staff are subject to CLM. And about the weather, it is expected that under the influence of cold air, there will be significant snowfall and cooling weather in the competition zones from today to the evening of the 13th. And today it will be cloudy to light snow in Beijing with a maximum of 0 and a minimum of -3 degrees. Cloudy to light snow in Yanqing with daytime mountain-top gusts of 6 to 10 meters per second. And in Zhangjiakou, more significant snowfall has already occurred this morning. Tomorrow there will be moderate to heavy snow in all 3 competition zones with low visibility and the temperatures dropping significantly. We will closely follow the temperature and remind everyone to stay warm. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, let's now just kick off at the beginning with a talk about the village and service to athletes from Mr. Shen. So I'll hand the microphone to you, Mr. Shen, and then we go to our general questions and answers. So.
Dear friends from the media, good morning. It is a great pleasure to be able to meet everybody at MMC at this press conference. The athletes have always been the center of any Olympic Games. We know that people are very much concerned about the lives of the athletes and the service and support to the athletes. We feel exactly the same way from the bidding, preparation, and the staging of the Beijing 2022. We have always adopted the principle of being athlete-centered. And so here I'd like to share with you some of the efforts we have made at the Olympic Village. The Olympic Villages are the largest non-competition venues, and they are home to the athletes. Since they are home, so there's no reason that we can be closed for service. So we have been providing the longest hours of service at all the venues. We provide service 24 hours for the athletes and team officials. In order to provide a world-class living environment for the athletes, we have made a very careful arrangement in terms of the facilities at the apartment, catering, and entertainment. We also provide a one-stop commercial service to satisfy the different kinds of demand and needs of the athletes. Looking at the apartment of the athletes, we try to make them warm and cozy and be people-centered. There are 4 types of apartment at the villages: 135 square meters, 165 square meters, 190 square meters, and 220 square meters, and so that we can provide enough space in the room. The interior design and decoration is elegant and warm and sweet, and they are all fully furnished. We have also provided offices and meeting rooms to meet the demand of all the delegations in order to guarantee the sleeping quality of the athletes so that they can in a better shape for competition and training. We provide adaptable, remotely controlled beds to the athletes, and so there can be different settings for sleeping and sitting, and there will be best support for the spine of each one of them. So there is also a bench at the end of the bed, which could be adjustable to a length of 2.2 or 2.4 meters. In terms of catering, the cuisine is very rich and tasty, and the nutrition is also very good, and the total dining hall of the athletes is 2,200 square meters, and which operates 24 hours every day, and we provide 678 dishes, and the menu rotates in every 8 days. We provide international, Asian, Chinese, and halal cuisines, and the food safety is also guaranteed. in the just past Spring Festival, we have also included some Chinese element in the interior design and look of the canteens, and we provided some Chinese food such as Beijing roast duck and dumplings, so that the athletes can also enjoy the taste of Chinese Spring Festival. What else I can share with you is that we have also set up facilities for relaxation and entertainment for the athletes. We have fitness centers and entertainment centers. We have a 2,000 square meter fitness center. There is power area and a stretching area. We have altogether 163 fitness equipment of 23 categories for the choice of the athletes. The entertainment center is over 1,000 square meters. There is a foosball and a billiards. We also have very high-tech entertainment facilities. For example, the 4D deep sea simulator and the spaceship cabin simulator. So the entertainment of choices is also very rich. Besides, we also have a comprehensive outpatient clinic, and we provide services in 18 departments such as physiotherapy, rehabilitation, treatment, dentistry, psychology, counseling. We provide 16 hours of service every day and also 24 hours of emergency medical aid. So we guarantee our service for medical service and the psychological health of the athletes. If the athletes would like to go around for a walk in the Olympic Village Plaza, we also have licensed shops, convenience shops, fast food restaurant, cafeteria, hair salons and bookstores. And we also have one-stop service for photo printing, laundry, dry clean, flower booking, and package delivery. We also have a Chinese traditional culture demonstration area and also counters for the athletes to experience traditional Chinese medicine. So we hope that the village can also be a platform where people can share and enjoy the culture of each other. Chairman Samaranchi, after having visited the Beijing Olympic Village, mentioned that Beijing Olympic Village is one of the best among all the winter and summer villages I've ever visited. We are very grateful for the recognition from Chairman Samaranchi, and we hope that with our very well-arranged service and the high-tech operation, we can provide the best service to the athletes so that they can enjoy the games and bring about their best performance. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Mr. Shen. Obviously, questions for Mr. Shen on that and every other topic as usual. So fire away. Let's start with two gentlemen there. One just here. Yeah, you, sir, and then you behind.
Morning, Mark. Jonathan Crane from Deutsche Welle. Just on the Kamila Valieva case, can you explain why it took 6 weeks for this positive test result to come to light, and who is responsible ultimately for that delay? Thank you.
Obviously, I can't personally explain that. It's as you know, in all the communication so far, it was a WADA-approved lab in Stockholm. So I would guess be a question for WADA.
Why are WADA not putting someone forward then? We've got all these questions.
You're very welcome to ask them. They have a press officer. But I can't answer that question on WADA. But it's a WADA accredited lab in Stockholm.
Okay.
Yeah, next question, gentleman there.
Thanks, Mark. Question from Xinhua. I will ask in Chinese.
My question is to Mr. Shen. In the Olympic Village, you talked about the variety of food. So what is the favorite dish among all the athletes? I heard that every day there will be X numbers of Beijing roast duck. Do you have a specific number? How many of the roast ducks are being served? Thank you for your question. Food And catering service is a very complex system. So this menu for the athletes is being designed as a result of our cooperation and coordination with the nutrition experts from IOC. It took us 2 years to design the menus. On the one hand, we have to guarantee that the food is good for the athletes. They have to be fully devoted into sports and the games. They are very much concerned about the nutrition, the calorie, and the fat, whether there is any source of allergy. So that's of great concern for the athletes. Besides that, from Beijing, we would also like to offer some Chinese typical traditional cuisine, especially when it's during the Spring Festival. Just now, as you said, what is most popular is dumpling and the Beijing roast duck. That is, of course, very typical of Beijing and China. That can be a good supplement to the nutritious menu and diet of the athletes. So at the peak hour, at one lunch, we offered altogether 80 Beijing roast ducks. After the athletes have tasted the roast ducks, and the athletes, they have been posting on social media videos and photos, and they all love the service and food we provide. Thank you.
Gentleman here, and then lady, and then we'll go over here to Reuters. Yeah, so.
早上好，能问一个问题，我非常高兴。
Morning.
原谅我的中文啊。
I'm very happy to ask this question. I'm sorry, my Chinese is not perfect. I'm from Associated Press.
奥林匹克的工作人员，对
The
奥林匹克的
work staff,
成功很重要。
the workforce of Olympic has been very important for the
可
success
不可以评论一
of
下他
an
们
Olympic
这些人，
Games?
我是说中国人在这里工作的
I mean,
重
the
要性，比如
Chinese
说
staff.
这个
How
运
can you
动员给
comment
他们吃
on
饭的，
the
给他们开
importance
车，
of
给
these
他们
Chinese
洗他们
staff?
的衣服之类的，都
So
是中国人
these
这样的工作。
workforce, they cook food for the
所以，
athletes.
能不
They
能
help
评
to
论一
do
下
the
这些人
laundries.
对奥林匹克
So
的
what
成
is
功多
your
大他们的
comment
重要性？
on the contribution of the work staff
具体的问题。
to the success of the games? I have 3 specific questions. First of
除
all,
了这个19000志愿者，就是 volunteers
we
以外，
have
能不能说
19,000
这个整个中国人在奥林匹克工作
Can we
的，在
say
这个闭环
how
管
many
理系统之内，人数是多
Chinese
少？
are working within the closed loop besides the 19,000
好
volunteers?
像是1月4号，
Another question
开
is
始在闭
that
环管理系统之内
a
工作，
lot of the staff get
会
into the
一直
closed
到3
loop
月
after January the
左右
4th,
工作。
and they will work until
那他们这个
probably
完了以
the
后，
first
他们
week
需不需要
of
隔离呢？
March.
那隔离时
Will
间会
these
多长？
local working staff go
而且，
through
3个
any
问题是
isolation
最后的问题
after
是
they have finished working within the
他们
closed
对
loop,
国
and
家
how long is that isolation
带来这个
going
光
to
荣
be?
啊。
So
那
these
他们以后
local
会不会有什么
workforce,
样的补
they
贴？
have
奥林匹克的补
made
贴
a lot of
是
contribution
跟
and
中
to
国的钱呢，还
contribute
是其他
to the
的
pride of the country. Will these
一些办法
local
感谢他
workforce
们的这个
receive any
工作？
allowance, or is there any way to recognize the significant work they have done during the games?
Question for you,
好，那可
Dr. Zhao.
我来回答一下。
Okay, let me take that
其中有一
question.
个问题是
One
隔
of
离
the
多长的问题
questions
呢
about the isolation or quarantine after the work is finished, and I think Mr. Huang Chun can answer that. Thank you very much for paying attention to the staff of this Beijing Games.
我们每一个身处
I think
在
that
这个
for everyone
这一届奥运会
who
中的无论是运动员还是
who participate in these games, be it the friends from the media or the athletes, have all felt the very detailed and hard-working spirit of the staff and their passion and enthusiasm toward the games, especially the volunteers.
为了
Those young
奥运
volunteers,
会他们在
in
中
order
国
to
下
serve
换取
these
了
games,
家人的团结
have given up their opportunity to get together with their family during the Chinese New Year. And I think that is also one of the goals of the Olympic Games. That is to let the Olympics light up the dreams of the young people. We also see from the media and the social media platforms, that the work staff and the volunteers, just like the athletes and other stakeholders, are serving the games for it to be a successful games. As for what you asked about whether the staff will get any remuneration or allowance for their service for the games, I think most of us are doing it out of our love and passion about the Olympic movement and the Olympic Games. As for the specific number of the total number of the staff and volunteers, I don't have the accurate number, but I can provide you that after the briefing. As for the quarantine, after working inside the closed loop, the policy about the quarantine of the staff, I invite Mr. Huang Chun to answer that. Thank you for your question. I'm touched by your question because it shows your concern on the Chinese staff and the volunteers, and also your recognition of their work. Indeed, it is like what you said. Since the 4th of January till the conclusion of the Paralympic Winter Games, we will have many staff and volunteers to work inside the closed loop, and they are not able to go back to their home. But of course, they will one day get outside the closed loop. As to how that will go, we are closely communicating with the governments of the host cities and zones. And the general principle is that we will adopt a comprehensive policy that is based on centralized quarantine or isolation together with health monitoring. So the centralized quarantine or isolation will be done at their current accommodation after the conclusion of the games. And after the centralized quarantine, they can go back home with daily health monitoring. It does not mean that they cannot get out of their home. They can also go to work, but it should be generally limited to their home and their workplace without going to public areas with a lot of people. So no matter whether it's centralized isolation or daily health monitoring, they also need to have daily PCR tests so as to have a real-time evaluation of their health. And we will adopt either the so-called 7+14 policy or 14+7 policy. So by 7+14, that means for work staff whose work venues do not have any positive case, they will have a 7-day isolation with a 14-day home monitoring. And so without any positive cases, we will adopt the 7+14 policy for work staff. Otherwise, if there are positive cases, then we will have a 14+7 days for the staff. And that will depend on the situation with the positive cases and their risk of exposure at the venues that they work. So that depends on the situation of the venues or the hotels that they work at. If there are any questions or doubts, we will have the medical experts who provide the evaluation of the situation. Thank you for your question. So I have a follow-up question, Mr. Huang. Besides the athletes and the media from overseas, There are about 50,000 to 60,000 Chinese staff inside the closed loop. Is that correct? I think you can pay attention to the total number of PCR tests that we issue every day, because that will be a dynamic number, and the total number of the tests can reflect the dynamic changes in the total number of staff. Thank you.
Yeah, gentlemen, if I could ask you, in respect of all your colleagues, we'll try to get around everyone, but please wait to be asked, because otherwise people can jump ahead of other people who've been waiting for a while. But yes, sir, and then we'll come to Reuters down here. Lots of people wanting questions. So, yes, sir, and then you, madam, you waited your turn. But gentlemen first.
Will do, thank you. I'll do that in future. Two questions, Mark. First of all, given that the IOC has appealed Rusada's decision with Ms. Valyeva to CAS, is it clear that the IOC believes that she should not be allowed to skate next week, given that you have filed this appeal? And secondly, given your repeated statements that the IOC, for various reasons, has outsourced this testing process to these other agencies, that the credibility of these games, you've decided it's best for them to handle it. Given this situation, why hasn't IOC brought those people in, WADA, other agencies, to have them here to answer these questions? Obviously, there are questions about this credibility in this process. You've decided to outsource to those organizations. Why not have them here to answer questions?
Yeah, thank you very much for that. I mean, obviously, we decided to outsource both the testing and sanctioning of doping cases for obvious reasons. Many of you many people saw at least the appearance of a conflict of interest, and so I think it's important that we were independent, and WADA and ITA are independent of us. They both do have press functions, and I can ask them to come here at some stage, but I would think during a live process, this is actually at the moment an appeal going on to CAS. I'm not going to comment any further on that, and I'm sure they wouldn't, so it's impossible for us to talk about this particular case. Yes, madam.
Thank you, Mark. I'm from CMG.
My question is to Mr. Shen. On some media reports, we saw that a Korean delegation is not very happy about the athletes' food and beverages, and they are now delivering food to their own athletes. And we also saw reports saying that athletes like our food very much. So how do you comment on that? Okay, thank you for your question. As I mentioned earlier, the menu for the athletes has been formulated based on a completed process. Before we started our work for the villages, we didn't have full understanding of the complexity of this work, because athletes' dieting habits may be different from the public. And like I mentioned, the athletes and the experts pay more attention on the nutrition of the food. For example, how many calories per 100 grams, how much fat, and what are the possible origin of allergies in those food, especially for top athletes. They follow very strict diet. And sometimes we joke among ourselves, they eat with calculators in their hands to calculate the calories and all other factors in their food. Sometimes they have to sacrifice the flavor of the food because of the need for nutrition. But for us, many people pay a lot of attention on the specialties. For instance, the special food we have in China, especially during the Chinese New Year, and that has been some of the highlights we saw in the media reports. But for athletes, they may they maybe pay more attention on the nutrition of the food. For example, they need a lot of eggs and other protein-rich food. And because the games coincide with the Chinese New Year, I think that's one of the reasons that the athletes' food has attracted more attention.
If we look at the variety of the food, only a very small proportion of the food is of Chinese flavor or of the special food for the Spring Festival. So we are trying our best to satisfy the needs and taste of as many people as possible. But of course, we can only provide a limited choice. Anyway, first of all, we follow the menu approved by IOC and make sure that all the necessary elements of nutrition are included. Secondly, we are trying our best to meet people's taste for different kinds of food. Thank you for your question.
Thank you very much. Let's go to Reuters now, Carlos Groman, and then I think Mr. Becker, I think I can see wants a question.
Carlos Groman from Reuters. A question on the technical aspects of the appeal that you filed yesterday. Have you been notified of a date or a day when the hearing will be held? And also, is part of the application of the appeal the delay of the Swedish lab or the delay of the delivery of the sample, or is it just the lifting of the RUSADA provisional suspension? Thank you.
Thank you very much. I did see, and I have got loads of papers here, but I did see that CAS have issued a statement about when the hearing will take place, but they've also said that they will communicate about it, but after it has taken place. But there is a communication from CAS. Obviously, you'll appreciate that they want the hearing to take place as properly as possible and allow for due process. So I would think it would be a matter of not giving everybody the date so they can have hundreds and thousands of people hanging around at the process. On the other question, sorry, it was there. From what I understand, as I say, it's a WADA accredited lab. I had understood, but I would like to get this confirmed, but I had understood that there were some issues around COVID, but I don't know about the exact delivery of the testing and the delivery of the sample. That's not an answer for me, but I had heard that. Whether that's true or not, you'd have to confirm. I think you may probably have heard that too. But yes, Mr. Becker, and then we'll come down to the gentleman here.
Hi, good morning. Christoph Becker from Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung. I've got a question. You may have seen the reports on some threats and other unpleasant forms of communication towards British journalists after reporting the story on Kamila Valieva and her positive sample. Does the IOC have a comment on that as far as this sort of communication is going, and some, by no means all, behavior of Russian colleagues here? Thank you.
Yeah, I won't single anyone out in particular. Obviously, tempers are a little bit fraught, particularly as we've already discussed that this does involve a 15-year-old athlete, and I think, understandably, all sorts of arguments on all sides, and it's not acceptable for that to turn into threats and violence, if indeed it did. So I think very much we'd ask everyone, I don't need to, I'm sure, for the vast majority of you, but everyone to remain calm. It's very important, even amongst ourselves, that we respect the Olympic values of respect to each other. Everyone is here to report the story, and I don't think that, I don't know about the details of this particular case, but I think we all need to take a chill pill, I think people would say when I was younger. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Zheng Yibing from CGTN. As one of the most anticipated events, the Olympic Figure Skating Exhibition Gala, where the top athletes will show off their skills in a more relaxed environment near the end of the games. So I'm just wondering whether you are still holding and planning this event, given the pandemic protocols in place. Will we see Yuzuru Hanyu from the Team Japan in the rink? Thank you.
Sorry, will we see him at the, sorry, apologies.
The Yuzuru Hanyu from the Team Japan, who has just finished the competition 2 days ago.
Will we see him where? Sorry, I missed
in the rank in the exhibition gala, figure skating.
I'm afraid I don't have any details on the exhibition gala. Maybe, I mean, I think that would be from ISU, from the skating union, but I don't have any more details. I don't know if my colleague from BOCOG does. Sorry, apologies.
As far as I know, the exhibition gala is included in the program, but who will be the figure skaters who will participate or join this gala? I think we can keep the secret until the last moment.
Gentleman there, I think, from Reuters TV.
Good morning, Mark. Ian Axon from Reuters Television. Without commenting too much on the Valieva case, is the IOC doing enough to protect young athletes?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked me that. I mean, obviously, we have been looking into entourage for some time, and I would be clear that the IOC, as ever, would welcome investigation into the entourage in all cases where it's relevant. And you know, we have, as you know, strengthened WADA. They have an intelligence and investigation unit, and where ITA is involved as well. But we would very much encourage that in this and all cases. It's very important. The entourage has been in the past overlooked. The President actually talked about it at the World Conference on anti-doping back a couple of years ago, how important entourage was. And the investigation unit in WADA has actually taken up this in quite a few cases. As I say, in this case, as in all other cases, we would welcome a strong line from them on that. Yes, Wakako.
Thank you very much, Mark. One question to you. Could you kindly confirm the difference between ITA statement and WADA statement yesterday regarding the date of the first information from Swedish level that Valieva tested positive to banned substance? WADA said it learned on the 7th of February, whereas ITA and IOC, of course, said it was 8th. Could you confirm that you didn't have that information on the day before when the competition was going on? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I hadn't seen that if there is indeed a discrepancy between WADA and ITA. I hadn't seen that. I'm sure it's explicable possibly by the fact that WADA would transmit the findings from one day to the next to the other, but I can't, I mean, I'm not involved in that process, so I couldn't give you an explanation yet. Gentleman there from Inside the Games, and then two ladies in red.
Michael Pavitt from Inside the Games. Mark, on entourage, does the IOC's Entourage Commission get involved in this case at all? And if so, do the two members from Russia and the member from Ukraine remove themselves from that particular process?
No, the Entourage Commission is very much for strategic guidance. It's the idea of it. The reason why it was set up was because, like everyone else, we realised that the entourage, which ranges, by the way, from doctors and coaches, parents, everyone, is incredibly important. We realised some time ago the importance of that, but the Entourage Commission will not be involved in any way. It provides strategic guidance. Yes, two ladies here in red.
Thank
you, Mark. My question is to spokesperson Mr. Zhao Weidong. We have seen the games is already half done. There are a lot of super performance by the athletes. A lot of the Olympic records are being broken. Is this good performance relevant to the support from the Olympic villages, the good service to the athletes? So is that a reflection of the spirit of being centered on athletes? Thank you.
Just now, Mr. Shen Qianfan has actually answered part of your question in his presentation, and I think your question is also something that a lot of media friends pay attention to. Of course, I think, first of all, the good performance of the athletes is closely linked to their own hard work and their pursuit of the Olympic spirit. Meanwhile, it is also related to the support and the help of the other parties, including the doctors, the team doctors, and the coaches, and of course, related to a certain degree to the conditions provided by the organizing committee. Beijing 2022 has always put the athletes in the center to provide support to them in every possible way by building a professional and fair field of play for all athletes. For example, in the venue construction, I'm sure you have all felt that yourself. We used a lot of technologies to build high-quality venues, and meanwhile, in the process of the construction of the venues, all the staff have really reflected the craftsmanship spirit to pay attention to every details in their work. In the National Speed Skating Oval, we have witnessed a lot of very good results and performances. And I'm sure the construction of the venue has played a certain role in that. And also in terms of the medical service and support, we built up a comprehensive medical support network, including the medical stations inside the venue and also the designated hospitals. Between the medical stations and the designated hospitals, we also have fast and convenient transport to guarantee fast transfer of the injured athletes to help them immediately. Also, you may have noticed that when we were formulating the countermeasures, we have issued 2 playbooks, one for athletes and team officials, another for other stakeholders. So we considered the special features and need of the athletes, and therefore formulated this playbook for them, for athletes and team officials accordingly, so that they can compete in a good condition. In terms of the life support, like Mr. Shen Xianfan has introduced about the facilities, services in the villages, I will not elaborate that again. So I think it is the joint efforts of all parties involved and also the hope of all parties involved, that is to build a safe, sound, professional, and fair field of play for the athletes so that they can give their best performance. Thank you.
Yeah, lady there, and then we'll come down to the gentleman from CBC, I think.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Mark. My question is to Mr. Zhao Weidong. We saw that Eileen Gu has won a gold medal and has received a lot of good recognition from the media, but we also have athletes who haven't had their best performances, like Zhu Yi. So how do you comment on that? I think your question is about the performances of the athletes on the field of play, which is something that the society, the public, is also paying a lot of attention to. I want to share with you an historical story on the Olympic history. As far as I can remember, it should be in London in 1908. An Italian athlete, Pierre Terry, who was running in the front at his competition. But when he was approaching to the finishing line, he fell down. But then he got back to his feet, and then he fell down again. And then when he was only 10 meters to the finishing line, he fell again. And he couldn't manage to go back up. And then the staff helped him to get up and to get to the finish line. He didn't win the gold medal, but in a different way, he actually also won the game and made his name to the history of the Olympic movement. And I think that over the entire history of the Olympic movement, we saw a lot of such stories of athletes. Same here in Beijing. I noticed that a lot of netizens are cheering on the athletes who are trying their best, no matter whether they have won a medal or not. So because they have always been challenging themselves, that is why it's necessary that they always encounter difficulties. But it is exactly such spirit of always challenging themselves, surpassing themselves, to that they are showing us the Olympic spirit of faster, higher, stronger. And meanwhile, we also always advocate the spirit of mutual understanding, mutual respect, and friendly friendship. So because of that, we cheer on for all the athletes who try their best. Thank you.
Faster, higher, stronger, together, I believe, is the motto now. So yes, sir, from CBC.
Thanks, Mark. Steve Futterman from CBS. Anyway, close.
I do apologize, sorry.
No problem. I do some freelance work for them, so it's cool. Hey, I wanted to ask you about the Valieva thing. And specifically, the IOC is asking that the provisional suspension be reinstated. Could you give the IOC's argument why it wants the provisional suspension reinstated?
Sorry, I really can't give you details of a case which is right before CAS. Probably, maybe even as we speak, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to rehearse our arguments or the arguments of our lawyers in a press conference. Apologies, Steve. Either for CBS or CBC.
But you can't give us like the general outline, the general belief?
No, it wouldn't be appropriate to discuss a legal case which is ongoing. I'm afraid I do apologize.
So let me ask you a second question.
Sure.
There's been a lot of talk about her being a protected person. I think that's the term used in these rules about her being underage, under 16. Is it your understanding that that is to protect her identity and her privacy, or is it to give her give someone, let's take her out of it specifically, but the protected person rules are to give someone underage a different circumstance for their situation? In other words, should someone under 16 have more leniency in certain cases, or is this purely the identity protection and privacy?
Steve, I mean, it's a good try, but I'm not really going to enter into the discussion of this case. I mean, obviously, all countries, my own, I think just about everyone, have different laws and different protections for minors, which is completely understandable for a whole range of reasons. But I really can't comment on what the specific implications are in this case. So, yeah.
Okay, thanks for the...
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Yeah, from ABC, I think. Yeah, there we are. Got that one right.
Hi, thank you for that. My name is Alex Brachet from ABC News. And my question, Mr. Adams, is given how this Valieva situation has dominated headlines, especially stateside, for the last couple of days, is there a frustration with WADA at this point?
We want to see due process, and we also want to see due process as quickly as possible. And, you know, this is why we have gone to CAS along with partners to challenge this ruling. We want to see it sorted out as quickly as possible. We have the practicality of an event coming up which needs to be cleared for all of us. We all want to see the concentration on sport. No one wants to see us looking at concentrating on potential doping cases. So I really we all hope that this can be sorted out as quickly as possible. But unfortunately, justice has to be done properly, and it takes time, but it will go as speedily as it possibly can do.
Well, and then my second question is, I mean, given the time crunch here, are you confident that there will be a resolution to this by the 15th?
There will be a resolution of this specific case, which is whether the suspension will be lifted or not. Yeah, I'm certain of that.
Thank you.
As certain as I can be. Obviously, I can't be totally certain, but I'm as certain as I can be on that specific issue. Yes, gentleman here in the front. Yes, yeah, thank you.
谢谢马克先生，我是北京新京报的记者。
I'm from Beijing News.
之前采访了单板滑雪女子 U 型场地的比赛，获得这个
I was interviewing at women's snowboard half pipe, and it's an American ski boarder, Kim. So she very much appreciated the high-speed rail between Zhangjiakou and Beijing. And we understand that we are all now in a closed loop. So athletes, media, and team officials. So what has the organizing committee done to offer as much information as possible to the athletes and team officials and the media for them to understand China? Thank you very much for that question. During the process of constructing the Olympic villages, we focused on the principle of athlete-centered. Of course, we want to provide passionate and careful and detailed service and support to the athletes. As we proceed the construction of the Olympic villages, it is also the process of the spread of the pandemic. And later, it was decided that we'll carry out closed-loop management. And that means that the operation and management of all the villages will be within the loop. And so that will be a very much pressing issue. So as a result of that, we provided additional service and to make sure that it's more human-centered. But of course, we need to keep everything safe, and there were additional measures for disinfecting. We have adopted multiple measures. One thing, for example, is that we expanded the fitness center and make sure that there are enough equipment, and we make sure that disinfection is carried out after each use. We have also included some high-tech entertainment. We have also added some demonstration zones or areas for traditional Chinese culture or traditional Chinese medicine. We also provide tailor-made service. The athletes can book service or order some products through the convenience stores. So at a lot of the venues, we have a Beijing culture demonstration house. It is a good reflection of what Beijing is like and what modern Beijing looks like, and also gives a demonstration or exhibition. It gives an exhibition of all the venues, not just the venues, but also what the whole city is like. And so we are trying to provide as much information as possible to the athletes for them to see what the host city, Beijing, is like and what China is like, and so that we can all share and enjoy the Olympic spirit. Thank you. I would like to add something. This is about the service we provide to the media. We know that because of the pandemic and countermeasures, we are all now in the closed loop. Media friends from all over the world will have to stay within the closed loop. So it is such a pity that a lot of the journalists cannot experience Chinese culture in person. So we are trying our best to find out different solutions to address these issues. So maybe if you look at the looks and the interior design of the media center, you can see there are a lot of Chinese elements. We have the Beijing courtyard and the Beijing Story exhibition house. We are trying to create an atmosphere full of Beijing looks. And in a lot of the restaurants and hotels, we have also included the Beijing element in the design. So we understand that it's also a pity that the journalists cannot carry out interviews outside the loop. And so we carried out an online or virtual interviewing program. So just now, as we were talking about the Beijing roast duck, and so we have a Beijing roast duck master demonstrating virtually online how it is being made. It is very well received by the journalists. Yesterday, we had an online program, and we are connecting online with our Panda Center in Sichuan province. Over 50 different media have joined us on that online program to virtually see how the panda are being raised and protected in China. And we'll also organize some follow-up programs as well. We have a lot of artistic remains from ancient history. The Palace Museum hosts a lot of such ancient relics, and so we'll have an online program to show how we restore and protect and repair these ancient remains. And there will also be other programs, and you are very welcome to follow us from my info. A couple of days ago, my colleague, Madam Yan Jiarong, mentioned that Jiyongguan Great Wall is within our closed loop. So hundreds of journalists have already made the opportunity to visit the Jiyongguan Great Wall in person. We are always ready to listen to your voices, and we'll try our best to provide as many opportunities for your interviews as possible.
Press there, and then lady, you've been waiting a long time, and then we'll go to the back, sir. I think you wanted a question. Yeah, so Graham.
Thank you, Mark. Graham Dunbar from the Associated Press. On the appeal to caste, strictly by the rules, the IOC didn't need to appeal. I mean, it's between WADA and RISADA for a sample taken outside the Games. Can you, just, without going into your position, why the IOC felt it needed to get involved in a case that it strictly didn't have to, but obviously the global perception is it's happening now at your Olympic Games and your show. But why did you get involved when you didn't have to?
Well, I mean, I think you've kind of explained it there. Yes, strictly speaking, we didn't have to, but it does impact quite a lot on the Olympic Games here in Beijing, and we thought it was important that we were involved in the process. So, yes, correct. By the letter of the law, we didn't have to get involved, but I think it was kind of saying a signal that we want this solved as quickly as it can be. Yes, lady there, and then I think there was a gentleman at the back who wanted to.
Okay, thanks, Mark from CMG. And my question to Mr. Shen, so I will ask in Chinese. 沈部长您好，
A question to Mr. Shen from CMG. The closed-loop management has been going on for quite some time. Are there athletes from China or from other countries? Are there any athletes who are suffering from psychological problems? And what do we do to address such issues, if there should be any? Thank you for your question. Under the closed-loop management, we understand that people's mobility is limited. It's different from our everyday life outside the loop, but that is very much necessary to keep everybody safe. The movement of some individuals are being limited, but it means that we provide better safety for most of the people, or for all the people. And so we understand that there might be some psychological pressure because of this closed-loop management. We were considering this issue in the period when we were making preparation for the games. For a lot of the delegations from different countries within their medical team, they have already included psychiatrists.
And also in the villages, among the medical team in the villages, we also have professionals, qualified professionals, to help the athletes who have such psychological or mental difficulties. In case of any extreme cases, we also have contingency plans. But of course, we always hope that we will never have to use our contingency plans. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's have Steve from AP. I think there was a gentleman at the back who wanted to ask a question next to Mr. Becker, or no? Don't want the question anymore? Okay, Steve, I think probably then we're at 12. So yes, Steve, sorry.
This is for Mr. Shen, Stephen Wade from AP. At the Olympics, there's a tradition of providing food for people with religious dietary needs. Muslim competitors, Jewish competitors, halal cooking, kosher. Are you providing that? And if so, who's doing the inspection for halal and kosher cooking? Thank you.
Thank you for your question. Well, for athletes who have special diet need, we follow the requirements of the IOC food and beverage experts requirement. For instance, like the halal food, we have service providers who follow strictly the procedures of making such food, and also such food will have to be evaluated and certified by the experts before they can be served to the athletes and the team officials, including the kosher food that you mentioned. We found in Beijing people who specialize in making kosher food, and after getting certificates from the experts, such food can be provided to the athletes. Of course, the overall amount of such athletes and people is not very big, but we do find professionals to provide such food. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. It's 12:05. I think if there are questions for our guests here, I think you can probably come up and ask them afterwards, but I think we're probably going to call that a day now, as it's 12:05. Thank you very much. Thank you very much to our guest as well, but I'm sure we will answer the questions afterwards. I don't know if it will make you happy, sad, or indifferent, but tomorrow is halfway through, and we will have a presentation with Yang Shan from BOCOG and with Christophe Duby, who is the Executive Director of the game. So I look forward to seeing you all again at 11 o'clock. Thank you very much. Goodbye.